What's going on? Jake here with Uncommon EDC. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Wurkkos TS10 Max, and this is available on Amazon for $46 and on the Wurkkos website sometimes for a little bit cheaper as well. So I'm going to link to both options down in the description of the video. Right now I believe it's cheaper on Wurkkos, but there is a countdown. That deal is going to be ending. So like I said, depending on when you're watching this, I would always price check both options to see which one's better. Obviously make sure to take into account shipping on that as well. But around $46, Wurkkos reached out to me asking if I'd like to take a look at this one, and I've been wanting to check out a Wurkkos flashlight for a while. They have a pretty good reputation. The price was right at about $46. I think relatively affordable for the output you're getting, which is again 2500 lumens, ultra bright flashlight, and a lot of different modes. Now I also really like the design of it. I think it had a really clean aesthetic on here. I love the RGB lighting on the front. That tail switch is super cool with that radial pattern, and they offer it in two different colors, the black and the blue. And the blue is a really cool color. When I was having the conversation with them, that color was sold out, but it is back in stock now. Now, what I didn't realize when I was looking at it from the website was just how advanced this flashlight is. It offers a ton of different features, but still has this pretty simple user interface for those that are like me and prefer a simple user interface where I'm not having to remember a bunch of functions and commands. But it also has a ton of advanced features for those that are really into flashlights and want to nerd out on those extra features. And to give you an idea of what I mean, I'm going to pull out the instructions, something I don't usually do in these videos, but this panel here is dedicated to the simple user interface. Still a ton of features. We have 8 different lighting modes for our white light, as well as a bunch of different flashing modes. I think 5 in total: candle mode, bike flasher, party flasher, tactical strobe, and lightning storm. You have different sort of programming things like stepping versus ramping, what your auxiliary colored lights are doing, those RGBs, and you can jump into the advanced UI with 10 clicks with a hold on the 10th click. And so if we flip over to the back, this is the instruction manual for the advanced UI. You can see it's taking up 2 panels now, has a whole flow chart of how to get into all of those different functionalities. And so this is a little bit advanced for me, but it's really cool that you have sort of the best of both worlds. The simple user interface for those that are into that, and then this more advanced one for those that, again, really just want to nerd out on all of the features this flashlight has to offer. So for the most part, I'm going to be showing the simple UI here just because I think that's what most people are going to be using. But again, really nice that it has that option for those that want the more advanced features. Now, in terms of the flashlight itself, we have a 6061 aluminum body with a 1 meter impact resistance and IP68 waterproof resistance, which is 2 meters on this one. It's powered by a 3000 milliamp hour 18650 lithium ion battery that's USB-C rechargeable. Does include a USB-C to USB-C cable for charging it. You do have to remove the battery from the flashlight in order to charge it. You can see no charging port on the flashlight itself, which I think probably adds to that water resistance a little bit, why we get 2 meters instead of the typical like 1 to 1.5 meters. And so it is internal charging on there, but really easy to remove. You can remove either side by just screwing off either end. 3.8 inches long and about 1 inch in diameter, so really nice size on this. Kind of fills up the fist nicely, as you can see, just about the size of the palm of my hand, wrapping it around there, and maybe about the size of a roll of quarters or so. You can see the diameter on here is just about 1 inch even. I think it was 1.02 inches, so pretty narrow flashlight. Fills up the hand nicely, but also just kind of makes for a nice tight pack on there. The switch itself, I already mentioned liking the design of it. It has that radial pattern. It's also really easy to click, not a lot of travel on it, but you do get a tactile click that you can hear and feel, which is a really nice thing. And it feels a lot more premium than the rubber tail switches that we end up getting on a lot of flashlights, so really appreciate that. We do get a pocket clip as well, single directional, and this is where you're going to attach the lanyard if you want to use the included lanyard, because as you'll see looking at the flashlight, there are no other attachment points. So I believe it's intended to thread through this slot on the pocket clip, but there's also another slot up here you can thread it through, and it's one of those kind of simple just wrist lanyards, nothing too fancy going on there. And so in terms of the user interface, while we're in our simple UI, it's a really nice, easy kind of stepping process. So if you click the button, it turns on in memory mode. So obviously I left it in a pretty high setting there, but if you hold it for 1 second, it's gonna go into your moonlight mode, or what I'm calling moonlight mode or firefly mode. But this is, the way they label their modes are just letters. So A1, B2, C3, and so on and so forth, all the way up to H8. So this moonlight mode is 1 lumen and 840 hours of runtime. So really, really stellar runtime on there. Obviously it's only 1 lumen, but if you're just kind of trying to read a little map or something like that, find a keyhole, that sort of thing, these moonlight modes are great, and it runs forever. So really, really nice there. Then if you hold the button, it will step up and ramp through. You can continue holding it to just continue ramping, or you can hold it just until it gets to the next mode. And so B2 is 10 lumens, 270 hours of runtime. C3 steps up to 40 lumens, 75 hours of runtime. D4, 135 lumens for 9.8 hours. And this is sort of that sweet spot for me. This is where I kind of like to leave it. It is a nice output. 135 lumens is going to light up most of the immediate area if you just need to see something, especially if you're using it in the house. And it has a 9.8 hour runtime still. E5, you're getting into that more outdoor use for me, which is 465 lumens, 6.3 hours of runtime. F6 goes all the way up to 900 lumens. Went backwards there. G7 is 1450 lumens, and then that H8 turbo mode is 2500 lumens. Now, if you hold it, it'll just kind of ramp back down, and you can leave it wherever you want it. Now, the reason I didn't mention the runtime on F6, G7, H8 is they do list them on the instruction manual. It says 5 hours, 4 hours, and 3.8 hours respectively. But if you actually use those modes, you'll notice that it starts to step down at around 30 to 45 seconds or so, and it's stepping down to about the E5 level. And so technically it will run in those modes for the time listed in the instruction manual, but it's starting to ramp down, and you're actually getting an output closer to that 465, 450 lumens or so. And so it didn't feel like it was kind of accurate to list those runtimes when in reality you're actually getting E5 output after the first minute or so in any of those modes. Now, again, you can double click from off to jump right into that turbo mode, and then hold to ramp back down. And then again, I left it there, it'll go back on there, but if you hold it, it will start off in moonlight mode. So if you don't want to utilize the memory mode, there are ways to jump right up to the top and bottom. Don't know how well that was coming through, but there are the RGB lights that flash immediately when you turn it off. There's a bunch of different settings that you can set those to change how they work. And to cycle through the different auxiliary modes, you do 7 clicks and hold on the 7th click, and that's something that you're really only going to be setting one time. You can also triple click this, and you get these flashing lights. And so what that is a battery check. So I believe it flashed 3 times the first time. I stopped counting on the second one, but there's a flash and then a pause and then it flashes, and basically it's telling you the digits. So the first set of flashes is the first digit, the second set of flashes is the second digit, and it's telling you how many volts are in that different mode, and then you can just click to get back out of the battery mode. And so that's your battery check. You notice there's no battery indicator with the typical glowing green light, red light. There is an indicator on the battery when you're charging it that turns green when it is fully charged. The one other mode that I wanted to show is the different flashing modes. So if you're sensitive to strobe, I would just skip to the end of the video at this point. It's going to be a little bit longer than the typical strobe sample because there's a lot more flashing modes, and that you get to by triple clicking and holding on the 3rd click. And so this first one, it's a little bit less obvious, but this is a candle mode, and so there's a little bit of a flicker to it. Hopefully that's picking up. And from here, you can double click to cycle through the various modes. So the next one is going to be a bike flasher, and you get there by double clicking again while it's already here. And so you can see it's got a kind of repetitive pattern. If you're riding a bike, gonna get a driver's attention, let them know that you're on the road if you're riding at night. 2 more clicks goes into a party flasher mode, which is kind of similar. And so you can see similar brightness, but just a more repetitive, almost strobe light effect, but not the tactical strobe, which is the next mode. And you're gonna see same kind of strobe pattern, but it's gonna step up to a much brighter strobe. So double clicking again gets us into that brighter strobe mode where it's a little bit more tactical if you're trying to stunt night vision a little bit. And then 2 more goes into a lightning storm, which was not at all what I would have expected. And so you might notice it's not really flashing there. That's because it's flashing red and blue lights here. And so at any point in there, you can single click to turn it off, and it just goes back into our off mode where it has the RGB for a second, and then we'll flash off and go back right into your normal memory mode. So it's going to remember the mode from the main cycle of the 8 modes, and you can again step up, step down. The kind of cool thing about it too is if you don't like the stepping and you prefer a gradual ramp where it gradually goes from the different modes, and it's a little bit less set in stone with the 1 lumen, 10 lumen, 40 lumen because it's gradually ramping through there, you can change that cycle by, I believe it's triple clicking without holding. No, I'm sorry, that's not correct. Where is it? So you can change the cycle from ramp to stepping. Oh, it's triple clicking while it's still on. So turn on the light and then triple click. I like the stepping because it's very obvious that you're in the different modes. But if you're someone who prefers to just gradually ramp and stop exactly at the lumen output that you want, which there's no LED or screen or anything like that to indicate how many lumens you're on, but you can just choose the brightness that you like that way. And it gives you a little bit more flexibility. I prefer the stepping, so that's exactly where I'm going to leave it. And one other thing is if you ever accidentally get into a weird mode where the auxiliary light's not doing what you expect, or you're in the advanced UI and can't figure out how to get out, which you can do by clicking 13 times gets you back into simple UI from advanced UI. You can also, or I'm sorry, 10 times. You can also click it 13 times and hold it on the last one to factory reset. But there's actually a much easier way to do it, which you don't have to remember any of these crazy clicking combinations. Just remove the battery and put it back in. You can even just unscrew it and screw it back in, and it will do a factory reset back into the basic setting modes. So as I said, a lot of features, but the main ones, the ones that you're going to be you're going to be using on a day-to-day basis most commonly, those are very easy to remember how to get into and very intuitive right out of the box. And so I really love that about this flashlight. I think a really cool one and super feature rich if you're trying to get into those more advanced flashlights. I think this is a great one at a great price point. Let me know what you think of it though down in the comments below. As usual, if you enjoyed the video, consider liking, commenting, subscribing, joining the channel as a member, checking out some of my other videos. All help out the channel a ton, and I hope you have a great one. Take care.